Okay, quick disclaimers before we get started. This is going to contain spoilers for the stage version of Into the Woods, as well as the entirety of Steven Universe. Just be aware of that going in. Second thing, this video is going to be an analysis of Steven Universe, not necessarily a criticism. There are places where we can criticize Steven Universe, absolutely. It's not immune to that, but it's not going to be happening here. So let's get started.
Ready, set, go.
Part 1.
It takes two.
Into the Woods is a musical written by James Lapine, with music by the great Stephen Sondheim. It is also arguably my favorite musical, if at least one of my favorites. And no, I'm not going to talk about the Disney remake of the musical. That's a whole other video essay for another day. There are so many things that I love about this musical. The story is fun and unpredictable, the music is fantastic, and I adore the way Lapine takes all these familiar stories and tropes and turns them all on their head. If you're not familiar with it, I'll provide a link to where you can watch it. If you can't immediately spare the 2.5 hours to do that, here's a quick summary. The first act is a happy-go-lucky charming story about a bunch of fairy tale characters trying to make their wishes come true. It's nice, it's a fun ride, and we learn good lessons like it takes two to make a relationship work, nice is different than good, and that the world is so much bigger than what we know. It's a solid romp with unforgettable music, ending with the triumphant number Ever After, where everyone's very happy because all the problems have been solved, and all that's left to do is live the rest of their perfect lives in good, perfect happiness. Then, the second act exists, where everything absolutely goes to complete and utter shit. People are dying, the gosh-hecking narrator dies, other people are selfish and greedy, and it's revealed that no one took into account how their ambitions in Act 1 just might have affected others. Shit needs to be worked out, and it will not be pretty. In the end, though, the remaining characters come together, and instead of leaving us with the shallow-end message of pursue your dreams at any cost and never look back, it becomes about looking out for each other and having empathy for those you might not always want to have empathy for. And this is where we can begin to talk about Steven Universe. Steven Universe, for those who don't know but inexplicably still wanted to watch a whole video essay about it, is an animated series created by absolute international treasure Rebecca Sugar, who also writes a lot of the music for the show. Premiering in 2013 and running until early 2019, the series spanned 5 seasons, a movie, and a concluding season titled Steven Universe Future, earning the coveted badge of 6 seasons and a movie. Now, if we were to look at Steven Universe as something of a serial stage musical, the first 5 seasons function as Act 1, with the movie and future becoming Act 2. The second act of a stage musical is usually shorter than the first anyway, so it works. Through this lens, the first act of Steven Universe is a story about a bright, colorful, happy-go-lucky, charming young lad learning about his powers as a unique hybrid between human and the alien race known as the Gems, as well as protecting the Earth from enemies from the Gems' home planet called Homeworld. There's also a steady revelation of Steven's mother's identity and her role in the lives of the Gems. There are a couple of distinctions to make in regards to the tonal differences between the two acts of Steven Universe. First, due to the fact that Steven Universe is a work that spans several years, both in medium and in narrative, the tonal and thematic shifts in Steven Universe are fairly gradual. Second, is that while the show has never shied away from the serious implications of many of the events shown in the series, compared to the film and future, the first act is composed of a much higher concentration of whimsical and fun episodes sprinkled with serious moments and revelations. The second act is, in fact, the inverse, an overall more sincere and unflinching revelation of Steven's own internal character flaws, struggles, and the effects of his past traumas, all simultaneously grounded in and lightened by the color and charm of the already established style of the series. Coincidentally, the second act kicks off with the infectiously catchy, triumphant song Happily Ever After. If you didn't already, perhaps now you have an idea of where I'm going with this. Part 2.
I'm fine. I'm fine!
Let's compare the opening lines of Into the Woods' Ever After with Happily Ever After from Steven Universe the movie, and see if we can pick up on any subtle thematic parallels. Strap in, kids, it's big brain time.
Ever after.
Ever after! Here we are in the future.
Journey over, all is mended.
Here we are in the future, and it's bright.
And it's not just for today.
Nothing to fear, no one to fight.
But tomorrow, and extended ever after.
Ever after! I can't believe we've come so far.
All the curses have been ended, the reverses wiped away.
Happily ever after, here we are.
All is tenderness and laughter for forever after.
I don't know about you, but there's something there that I just can't put my finger on. Hopefully you're catching on to the point I'm beginning to make. In both works, the first act contains what seems like a complete narrative. An objective is established, find/do the thing you went to the woods for, or discover your gem powers and defend Earth, and it's completed. And not without a fair amount of character development on all fronts, to a point where the characters feel confident in themselves and what they've accomplished. And as is the standard for many children's stories and fairy tales, we are given the announcement of a happily ever after. It is right at this point, the moment of triumph and surface-level resolution, where Into the Woods and Steven Universe break the mold. Rather than this denouement descending nicely into the end of the story, we are launched right into a new wave of rising action. The giant's wife has come down for revenge, as has Spinel, an old and once loyal friend of Pink Diamond's. And while the conflict with Spinel is resolved, as one must in a full-length film, she and the giant's wife act as a catalyst to the true purpose of the second act in both of these works. An honest and unflinching reflection of the self. We have songs sung by tired, traumatized people who just want to live the rest of their lives in peace and comfort, and enjoy what they have worked and sacrificed for. We have a baker who, having just witnessed the death of his father and the breaking of a family curse, just wants to be a father and a husband. We have a young man who, after fighting the ultimate authorities of the gem world and witnessed his friends be beaten down countless times, wishes to move past his mother's legacy and forge a new path for the new gems who now call Earth their home. They deeply want happily ever after, and it could be argued that they deserve one. Unfortunately, in both cases, the story simply isn't done with them, and for good reason. Shit needs to be worked out, and it won't be pretty. Part 3.
I get it. It's hard to deal with stuff from the past. You want to put it off because there's tons of it, and it's really heavy, and it means a lot to you, so it's hard to let anything go. But you gotta, because this thing is full!
I'm going to repeat my previous thought in saying that there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to just move on with your life after having gone through what Steven and the characters in Into the Woods have gone through. The problem comes when, in the process of trying to move on, the past is treated as something that no longer holds relevance. From this point on, I'm going to focus mainly on the second act of Steven Universe, because while there are certainly elements of the second act of Into the Woods that deal nicely with what we'll call the trauma before, Steven Universe the movie and future feel like stronger examples of how ending with happily ever after might sabotage a character's developmental arc. And in this case, attempting to tie a story together nicely functions against the central themes of the story itself. The song Familiar from the movie's soundtrack serves as a perfect example of a story element that so deeply needed and benefited from the second act of Steven Universe. Steven's relationship with his mother, Rose Quartz, later revealed as Pink Diamond in disguise, is one that involves not only his relationship to the world of the gems, but also his relationship with himself. This is seen in the movie as Spinel redirects her hurt from Pink Diamond's abandoning her, as well as the way Pearl used to treat Steven early on in the series, projecting not only what she saw in her relationship with Rose Quartz onto her relationship with Steven, but also her perceptions of his role in the Crystal Gems. The song Let Us Adore You, sung by Spinel and the three remaining diamonds, portrays pretty clearly the attitudes held by the gems about Steven regarding his mother. And it's in those same episodes, the last few leading up to the movie, which marked the shift from Steven coming to terms with who his mother was in relation to the gems, to his processing through what her identity means for his own. There's an episode in Future that I like to consider a statement on what made that whole season something that needed to be a part of the Steven Universe story, where Steven's body has been randomly expanding and shrinking in various areas, and ends up having to consult Connie's mother for a diagnosis. Now, the idea of Steven's body changing based on his emotional state is nothing new, but it becomes increasingly clear as Steven's condition worsens that this is not simply an unfamiliar symptom of aging, but the result of years and years of repressed trauma and anxiety. Steven has seen and experienced a lot of awful, complicated, and sometimes straight up horrifying things, which he's never had time to properly address and process. Furthermore, this is framed within a larger arc throughout Future, where Steven puts extra effort into ignoring his worsening mental and emotional state as he tries to figure out what his life should look like heading into adulthood. One day he's growing a sentient cactus garden in an attempt to find a sense of purpose outside of his friends and family, and the next he's frantically running around New Homeworld, trying to be as involved in the lives of those newly settled on Earth, never taking a moment to look back on everything he's gone through up until that point. This arc culminates in part 2 of the 4-part finale of Future, entitled Everything's Fine. Scared by the mistakes and bursts of rage he's experienced previously, and the creeping similarities with Pink Diamond that are beginning to manifest, Steven attempts to distract himself from his rapidly accumulating anxiety by getting involved in whatever manner possible in the goings-on of New Homeworld. Over the course of the episode, Steven's friends' expressions of concern for him go entirely dismissed as he proceeds to cause catastrophic damage to New Homeworld, all the while insisting that he's here to help. Upon returning home, Steven is confronted by his father, Connie, and the Crystal Gems, pleading with him to tell them what's wrong. Steven resists just a little more, but as he does so, the events of the recent past finally settle in, and his efforts to optimistically shoo things away fade away. And the final second of the episode shows Steven exploding into the giant monster seen in the next episode, fueled by frustration, despair, and self-loathing. The final 5 episodes of Future effectively tie together every internal conflict Steven has had to deal with in the series. His relationship with his mother, his role among the gems, his identity as half human and half gem, and his processing of the life he's lived. We see Steven at his least likable. He's insensitive, reckless, and at moments dangerous to those around him. In this aspect, the final episodes of Future are both amazingly well written and uncomfortable to watch. I didn't want to see Steven like this, but Steven needed to be seen. He needed his family, and us vicariously through them, to see the monster he felt he'd been turning into. By acknowledging his darker parts, Steven was finally able to feel wholly loved, and as a result, healed. I like happy endings. I like redemption arcs and having a sense of optimism in the knowledge that no matter what happens, good things can still happen. But within this, I am more appreciative of realistic yet hopeful endings. If Steven Universe had ended entirely with the 5th season, I would still be recommending it very highly. But I'd be lying if I didn't think that Steven Universe Future is one of the best seasons of animated television I've ever seen, as well as one of the best final seasons for such an iconic show. It, much like the second act of Into the Woods, took an already delightful ride with fantastic writing and wonderful music, and recontextualized it with the fact that sometimes a story just cannot end at happy ever after. Sometimes we must go back into the woods. Sometimes we have to leave Beach City because choosing not to would be disrespectful to our own development as human beings. And before that, we need to work through the parts of ourselves that we might otherwise like to sweep under the rug. While I was writing this script, I started going to therapy for my own anxiety. I know what it's like to sit with the parts of myself and the past choices I've made that make me feel like something of a monster. And it would be all too easy to try and sweep those things under the rug in an effort to perpetuate a sense that everything is fine. I am a slightly different person because of Steven Universe and Into the Woods, because they taught me not to pursue some sort of happy ending, but to pursue the betterment of myself, even after what could feel like happily ever after. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to hear your thoughts about the things that I talked about today. I know that I didn't cover every aspect of Steven Universe that might have something to do with the whole happily ever after idea. And if you have criticisms, I would love to hear them. I want to get better at this, and I'm not afraid to address things that I could improve on. If you're new to the channel, hi. It's great to have you here. Most of the time I do gaming videos. I am going to be making more of these. It's just gaming is easier to record, and thus that'll be what takes up most of what comes out of this channel. But I hope you stick around to see other video essays that I make. If you're looking for a way to support me, I don't have a Patreon or a way to get money for anything. My channel isn't really that big enough for me to justify getting myself something like that. But I would appreciate sharing this video and the channel with your friends. Anyone that you think would be interested. It would be fantastic to have some new people watching my content. Again, if you like this video, you can also click the like button. That's another great way of supporting the stuff that I make, as well as putting your thoughts in the comments. And if you like what you saw or anything else that you find on the channel while you're looking, feel free to hit the subscribe button and even click on the bell if you're so inclined. Thanks again, and I'll see you later.